So today we're going to talk about 3.5, dividing polynomials. Before we get into that, let's review long division with integers. So if you're given 501 divided by 3, you look at the first digit. How many times does 3 go into 5? 1. 3 times 1 is 3, but you have to subtract. So 5 minus 3 is 2. Bring down the 0. How many times does 3 go into 20? 6. 3 times 6 is 18, but we have to subtract. 20 minus 18 is 2. Now we bring down the 1. 3 goes into 21 how many times? 7. 7 times 3 is 21. We have to subtract, so we get a remainder of 0, and our answer is 167. Now let's move on to something more complicated. A binomial divided by 3. So first thing you want to make sure is that your polynomial is written in descending order, and we are in descending order because we go from a degree of 1, and remember this is a constant which has a degree of 0, so 1 to 0. And it's very important that you are in descending order. Okay, so now let's look at our first term. How many times does 3 go into 3x? Or if we take 3 and we multiply it by something, it will give us 3x. So what is that something? It turns out it's x. 3 times x, 3x. But we have to subtract. So 3x minus 3x is 0, and bring down the 6. Now, how many times does 3 go into 6? 2. And keep in mind, this is positive 6, so it's plus 2. So now 2 times 3 is 6, and you have to subtract. So our answer is x plus 2, and we have no remainder. Now let's move on to dividing polynomials. This is how it will be given to you on Apex, and you might ask yourself, what goes on the inside, what goes on the outside? Well, identify the degree of the polynomial. So look at this polynomial and look for the highest degree. I see that it's a 2, so this is a second degree polynomial. How about the other one? I see that the highest degree is a 1, so this is a first degree polynomial. The polynomial with the higher degree will go on the inside. And that makes sense because when you do long division, you put the bigger number inside. So the polynomial with the bigger degree will go inside. Okay, so now the one that is smaller will go outside. Okay, now for this, it's very important that both polynomials are written in descending order, okay? Now we only really have to focus on this x right here, but we will pay attention to the 4, you'll see. Okay, so now ask yourself, how many times does x go into x squared? Or x times what will give us x squared? Well, that's just x. X times, so now we have to take this x right here and distribute it into both of these terms, okay? So x times x, x squared. 4 times x, 4x, and it's plus 4x because this is a positive 4, okay? Okay, and remember, you have to subtract. So this minus sign is actually going to this x squared and the 4x, right? Because we're subtracting the whole thing, and that is something you have to be very careful with. So now let's subtract. X squared minus x squared is 0. Now it's 5x minus 4x, so that is just plus x. And let's bring down this 4, plus 4. Okay, now, looking at this x again, how many times does it go into x? Or what times what? X times what will give us x? Well, that's plus 1. Okay, and same thing, we take this plus 1 and distribute it. Okay, so 1 times x is just x. 1 times 4 is plus 4. And remember, we have to subtract the whole thing. So this minus sign is going to this x and is going to the 4. So now let's subtract. X minus x, that's just 0. 4 minus 4, that's just 0. So our answer here is x plus 1 with the remainder of 0. And our answer is in descending order, as it should be. Now let's do something a little more complicated. Same thing. What goes on the inside? The higher degree polynomial. Which one has a higher degree? Well, I see this one has a degree of 3, and this one has a degree of 1. Therefore, this one must go on the inside, and this one must be on the outside. Let me just fix this. Okay. So now, again, let's focus on this x. How many times does x go into x cubed? Or x times what gives us x cubed? We know that's x squared. How do we know that? Because x times x squared, which is just x times x times x, you see that we get x cubed. Okay? And again, we have to distribute this into both terms. Okay? So x squared times x cubed, x squared times 1 plus x squared. And we have to subtract the entire thing. So now we subtract. So we get x cubed minus x cubed, 0. Negative, this is negative 2x squared, minus x squared. So that's negative 3x squared. You have to be very careful. Okay, now let's bring down the other terms. Plus x plus 4. Okay, so now how many times does this x go into negative 3x squared? Keep in mind that it's negative. So negative 3x. So x times negative 3x will give us negative 3x squared. And again, we have to take this and distribute. Keep in mind, this is negative. So it's negative 3x times x, which gives us negative 3x squared. And it's negative 3x times 1, which is minus 3x. But remember, we have to subtract the whole thing. The whole thing. So now this is negative 3x squared minus negative 3x squared. And remember, two negatives make a positive. So this is actually negative 3x squared plus 3x squared, which is 0. Now let's look over here. X minus negative 3x. Remember, it's a little hard to see, but two negatives make it a positive. So this is really positive x plus 3x, which gives us 4x. And we can bring down the other 4. Now, how many times does this x go into 4x? It's just plus 4 because it's a positive 4x, okay? And same thing, we have to distribute it into both of these terms. Okay, so x times 4, 4x. 1 times 4, 4. And remember, we are subtracting the whole thing. Okay, so 4x minus 4, 0. 4 minus 4 is 0. So our answer is x squared minus 3x plus 4. And we have no remainder, so you can leave it like that. If you want, you could do r0, remainder 0, but this should be fine.